what's up you guys, this is Rob from the Gay Guy Plays, and today we're showing off the full Monty, investigating the real deal behind 120% physical damage mods when we do it raw. Alright, so I know that I did a debunk on this topic before. However, full disclosure, rewatching it now I found that my explanations were a bit wordy and I didn't do an amazing job at showing you the exact numbers to back up what I was saying. So I figured that since most of us are visual learners, this might bring to light exactly what I was talking about. However, this video will only really go into the way these mods affect damage. So for the full detailed mechanical video, be sure to check out the original. In addition, we will be running these mods with the aid of a full elemental combo. As we all know, you never sacrifice your elemental combo for a physical damage mod. If you want to see that in action, I've got a PSA on that as well, so you never make that mistake. Ever. Now, one of the biggest things you have to keep in mind with physical damage mods is that they only really work well with weapons that have 70% or more of their damage type on a weapon. So if you have a 120% puncture mod, it will only really be effective on weapons with 70% or more of their base damage in puncture. The easiest way to figure that out is to take the raw amount of puncture damage a weapon does and divide it by its total base damage. And clearly you can apply this formula to any of a weapon's physical damage types. Quick disclaimer by the way, these builds that you see right now are for display/testing purposes. Multi-shot mods are left out so you can more clearly see the damage numbers, while some critical and triggered buff mods are left out to keep damage numbers consistent. We're just here for damage numbers and not supplemental stats. Now let's start out with surprisingly the best physical damage type at what it does, impact. Now I'm going to start off with the best possible showing, a 120% impact mod on the Kthnxbai, which has 90% of its damage type in impact. Since we're showing this mod off at its best, we're going to put it up against Corpus Shielding, which impact enjoys a 50% bonus against. And if you notice, I've chosen the highest possible level because they have more shielding. Now, as you can see with Crash Course equipped, we're doing 18,076 points of damage to the shielding. In contrast, I went ahead and equipped a 60% elemental mod to strengthen the existing magnetic combo, which only resulted in 16,412 points of damage. Now, while there were many ways to mod for shielded enemies, I want you to take a look at that specific performance gap, because to contrast, I want to show you a weapon with only 50% of its damage type in impact. The Gridlock equipped with Crash Course deals 1,678 points of damage to Corpus Shielding, but when equipped with a 60% elemental status mod to strengthen the magnetic combo instead of that impact mod, it actually deals 1,725 points of damage. This just goes to show that physical damage mods heavily rely on their weapon's physical damage spread in order to perform optimally, so you really need to pay attention to a weapon's IPS percentages before equipping one of these mods. Now let's get back to the Kthnxbai. While the 120% impact mod is great against Corpus Shielding, killing a level 135 elite crewman in about 4 hits without multi-shot or triggered buff mods, many of us just go straight in with a poison-based build that kills the same crewman in only 3 hits, thus nullifying the need to even use those impact mods. Now, one of the biggest issues with physical damage mods is the fact that they are even more restrictive than Bane mods, only allowing you to use them on specific weapons against specific enemy types. Let's take a look at how that Kthnxbai performs against an armored enemy unit. As you can see, I've selected a level 70 Corrupted Heavy Gunner. While it's a bit high, most of us who do extended duration runs don't really bat our eyes at these guys. So with Crash Course equipped, a body shot deals 2,493 points of damage. In contrast, when we equip a 60% elemental status mod to strengthen the corrosive elemental combo in its place, the Kthnxbai' damage jumps to 3,041 per crit. Which just goes to show that physical damage mods tend to be extremely inflexible. Sure, the 120% impact mod performs well on shielded enemies, it didn't even do half bad on the infested, but up against armored targets it flopped. So don't bother equipping this in the void. And even if your team ends up running 4 corrosive projections, nullifying that armor, impact suffers a 25% reduction to both corpus flesh and clone flesh. So you'd probably be better off running strengthened viral, which has a 75% bonus to clone flesh and a 50% bonus to corpus flesh. And the sad thing is, that was one of the better performing physical damage mods. Now let's take a look at the performance of a 120% slash mod on one of our favorite candidates for it, the Sancti Tigris, which has 80% of its damage in slashing. Up against an infested ancient, it deals 5,195 points of damage per pellet. However, equipping a 90% fire elemental mod to strengthen the existing blast combination actually outdamages it, inflicting 5,360 points of damage per pellet. Now that's not the only place it falls short. Equipping the magnetic elemental combo and the slash mod up against Corpus Shielding does 4,628 points of damage per pellet. but if we replace that slash mod and use another 60% elemental status mod to strengthen that magnetic combo, we end up dealing 4,689 points of damage. Again, there are other alternatives that are better suited for fighting the Corpus, but this further illustrates the inflexibility of physical damage mods. Now, just for kicks, let's toss on some corrosive damage alongside that slash mod and go up against a heavy gunner. Again, this one is set at level 70. As you can see, we're dealing 803 points of damage per pellet. But when we toss on another 60% elemental status mod, you can see that the damage per pellet increases to 928. Now clearly this is with armor on. If you're running 4 corrosive projection, slash is actually pretty awesome. However, viral damage does get a significantly larger damage boost against corpus flesh and clone flesh than slashing does. But since the simulacrum doesn't allow me to factor those out, that's something I can't test in a controlled environment. Now last, and kind of least, is the 120% puncture damage mod. Now, to give it the best possible leg up, we're going to pair it with a Bolt or Prime, which sits at 90% puncture damage. Mix that puncture mod with a bit of corrosive and toss it up against a level 70 corrupted heavy gunner, and we're dealing 304 points of damage on a body shot. Now, let's swap that out with a 60% elemental status mod to strengthen the existing corrosive combo, and we're actually getting more damage at 311 per shot. So straight out of the gate, puncture is already bad at what it's supposed to be good against. Needless to say, it also fell short against corpus shielding when put up against a 60% elemental status to strengthen magnetic, and fell even further behind when used against an ancient, pitting a strengthened corrosive and puncture combo against a corrosive and blast combo using a full 90% elemental spread. At this point, I figured you're probably tired of watching physical damage mods get owned, so I thought I'd put up entertaining Warframe animations just to make you feel better about life. So all in all, it's pretty clear that the use of physical damage mods is extremely limited. First off, there are only a handful of weapons that can use them, and only as splash mods against a select faction. So basically think about this as a Bane mod, but even harder and more complex to use. I mean, at least you can slap a Bane mod on anything without having to calculate its damage spread. With those, the only thing you're really left empty-handed in is the Void. But let's face it, in general, you really wouldn't want to use physical damage mods in the Void either. Now before I end this, I do have a bit of a PSA. Feel free to mod however you like. I really don't care. Whatever you do behind closed doors is your own business. However, if you come to my comment section and leave a misleading comment about a build containing a physical damage mod, understand that I may have to correct you. And that isn't out of spite or the need to be superior, but you have to understand that this is my channel and that it is my responsibility to ensure that all of the information contained here is as accurate as possible. Because not only do I want my viewers to be entertained, but I also want each and every one of you to stay educated as fuck.